33. For God is not the author of confusion.
He's not the what?
The author of confusion.
Satan is the author of confusion.
But of peace, as in all the churches of the saints.
All praises to the Most High. Now we have understanding. Now we have understanding. Right? We see that we've looked at Christ, right? We've examined Christ. We've examined the doctrine of Christ. We've examined the image of his church and how church is conducted. And we see in none of those three categories does the modern day church fit. Now the question is, why? Why does modern day Christianity look so different than what the church that Christ and the apostles established? It's because there was a period of tainting that happened, that took place. What was that period? The time of Emperor Constantine and the councils. Now I'm coming from a book here. This is a book that's in most libraries, Cambridge, Oxford. This is called The Early History of the Antiquities of Freemasonry. This is about the history of Freemasonry, where it comes from, the origins, right? I want to turn to page 18. First chapter, page 18. Check this out. It says the Christians received at his hands a number of pagan temples which were suitably altered and were used by them for their religious sermons. Now I'm going to go back a sentence. Who gave them these pagan temples? It says although the early Christians made no amends for the destruction of the antique moments during the reign of Constantine the Great, a temporary zeal was manifested by reason of profession of the Christian religion. So what happened is that the Christians at this time were being persecuted, right? And by the greatest person in that country saying, hey, I'm a Christian now. Now there's an empowerment of this religion. There's the empowerment of the people of this body, right? So now it's almost like Israelites being persecuted, and Barack Obama converts and says, hey, I'm an Israelite, right? One of the most acclaimed people among our nation says, I'm an Israelite now. Now the Israelites are like, yeah, there we go now. But look at what happens. Look at what Constantine turns around and does. The Christians received at his hands a number of pagan temples, which were suitably altered and were used by them for their religious ceremonies. In the construction of churches of the basilica, there remain earlier works were used and arranged in an tasteless manner. Not only is this a total disregard for the sound principles of the art perceptible in the architecture of the age, but this is more strongly evident that the freedom of the enthusiastic Christian artist, right? Now keep in mind the perspective that this is being written from. This is being written by a Freemason. So what he's saying is that the Christians' infiltration of the church was wicked. You see how his opposite is? Like, they came in and tainted our wicked temples. But check this out. It says, who, in order to display their servile subserviency to the will of the powerful monarch, by the substitution of head attributes or inscription, transformed without scruple Jupiter into God the Father and Venus into a virgin.
Come on, tell the truth.
So what did they do with these pagan temples? They moved in. He said, hey, y'all, take these pagan temples, forcing this prior religion, which we're going to see underground. But what was left? You had statues and idols of people in there. And what they do? They say, hey, that statue of Jupiter, that's not Jupiter anymore. That's God.
Look at that.
See that woman right there that used to be Venus or Ishtar? Nah, that's Mary. And that child that she's holding, that's not Tammuz anymore.
Come on.
That's Christ.
Wow.
This is in their own book.
Yeah.
They moved in, and as this Freemason says, he's saying they moved into our temples and destroyed them with their Christian traditions.
Come on.
And you know what? There was no backlash. Go to the east and look at the Catholic churches. Because keep in mind, Christian comes from Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
Go into those Catholic and Christian churches. Go into their basements.
Wow.
When you go underneath, you'll find Mithraic temples.
Google it.
What is Google it. Look it up. You will see that there are pagan Mithraic temples that have the exact same design and outline as the church up top. They're just not calling those statues Mary and the Most High. They're calling them Zeus, Jupiter, Venus. They're like, it's some disguise down here. We don't got no curtains down here. Ain't no false labels down here. We doing it out in the open.
That's right.
What is the Mithraic doctrine? What is Mithraic doctrine? Who is Mithras? Right?
You want me to read
Quite
it?
simply, go ahead and read it.
All right. Mithraism, a sect of Zoroastrianism, characterized by the worship of Mithra as the defender of the truth, was a monotheistic mystery religion prevalent in the Roman Empire before the acceptance of Christianity in the 4th century. Followers of Mithra became less common after the Roman emperors banned their cults, and Christianity gained the popularity that once belonged to Mithraism.
Now, who wrote that?
Dr. Martin Luther King. This actually comes from, this is an excerpt from an essay he wrote back in 1949. And bringing this out because he is a very prominent, well-known and respected Christian. And so it's important that everyone knows what he knew concerning Christianity and Mithraism and how the two, are sort of kind of combined.
Now, what you're about to see,
He got
Is
an
that-
A on this essay, by the way.
he got an A. What you're gonna see is people. A lot of people are gonna get mad because this right here questions the integrity of Dr. Martin Luther King. Now we know his change. We know his change from the day before to the day that he died. How the knowledge that he had made him change the way that he operated. So clearly, he figured out something that convicted him and forced him to change before he was killed. Right? But we're talking about his movement. This paper was written in 1949. So that means all the way up from 1949 all the way up until his death, he knew this information about Christianity. But he still continued to push this religion. He still continued to remain loyal to this religion, or to this cult, as he called it. Read.
All right, this is just a couple. He says here, there are many points of similarity between the two groups. Let us look at a few of them. So I'm just going to read a couple of bullet points so as not to read the whole essay. It says, both regarded Sunday as a holy day. Why? Because those that were in Mithraism were sun worshipers.
They worship the sun.
Right. The next one, December 25th, became considered as the anniversary of the birth of Mithra and Christ also.
Christmas. That's where that comes from right there. See, Christ wasn't born in the winter because he was born outside. If he was born in winter in the Middle East outside, he would have been dead, just like everybody else. like the brother who was tending to his sheep. I'm sorry, but it wasn't winter time.
Right.
And considering the fact that it was a feast, that it was around the time of the feast, he was probably born anytime from July to September. But there is no way that this brother was born or somebody was tending to their flock in the dead of winter. Because that's exactly what he would be. Dead.
Exactly.
That was a compromise that Constantine gave. Constantine said, well, what the pagans said, what the people following Mithras said, they said, listen, I can't put this down. This is one of the most important holy days of all of the ones that we have. We're not getting rid of this. So he said, you know what? Mithras he was born on December 25th. They have Christ
Now, see, he says here that that they accepted Christianity. Well, he made Christianity the main religion of that time, but they did not accept it and get rid of their cults, like it said.
And please
what
tell
they
me,
did was they brought them together. They brought them together because if they did, they didn't want to divide the kingdom. So they brought them both together. That's where we get the Christmas and all this stuff from. They brought the paganism into Christianity, early Christianity.
when you go and get the chance, Constantine made Constantine's arch after he converted to Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
So that means he was a Christian when he built this arch.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why Apollo is on it.
Good question.
Why are there pagan gods on his arch when he's a Christian?
He didn't let it go. Go
ahead and continue.
This one, pay attention to this one right here because this one says a lot. It's another bullet point. It says the rebirth of converts was a fundamental idea in the two cults. He calls Christianity a cult. Dr. Martin Luther King.
But yet, throughout his whole movement, Pastor Dr. Martin Luther King is spreading this cult.
I'll put in the link in the chat so you can look it up for yourself.
He is spreading this throughout his whole movement. That's why I'm saying you have to question the integrity of this man. Because people are in a couple of days, we're going to celebrate this brother because of his I Have a Dream speech, not realizing that this man was destroying our people. You have to question the integrity of not only this man, but his movement as well.
I want to put this out there real quick before you move on.
Go ahead.
Is that cool?
Go ahead.
All right, it says there, he says Christianity did copy and borrow from Mithraism. This can't be denied. But it was generally a natural and unconscious process rather than a deliberate plan of action.
How?
Exactly.
How was it not deliberate when Constantine the Great sat up in a council with a bunch of dudes talking about what they're going to put in and what they're going to take out? How is that not deliberate? See, if it wasn't deliberate, then they wouldn't have held a council. It was just something that sort of where the two just sort of phased together. Right? That's like saying desegregation wasn't deliberate. They came together in court and brought the black people and white people together. Desegregation would have happened naturally. Black people would have started talking to white people naturally. That's something. It would have taken longer, a lot longer, but it would have happened. So that was deliberate. That's like saying, "Oh, desegregation wasn't deliberate." It was deliberate. They came together in court and said, "We're going to bring these two jokers together," just like Constantine got together with his council and said, "We're going to bring you two together."
Wow.
Read?
Wow. He says here, I'm going to go back. He said Christianity did copy and borrow from Mithraism. All right. And he goes on to say here, it says, yet we must be indebted to the source.
So he's saying we owe Satanism. We owe paganism.
What is that? What is that?
But check this out. It says many views while passing out of paganism into Christianity were given more profound and spiritual meanings by Christians. 25th as Christ's birthday, right? Sunday worship. The virgin birth doctrine. He throws the virgin birth out there. Virgin birth doctrine, saying that he knows that Christ wasn't born of a virgin. Because keep in mind, he just said that this was from paganism put into Christianity. The virgin birth wasn't already in Christianity.